Are you ready?
Yes.
Nancy,
Can I grab my card?
administrator of that.
Hi, Doug Carter. We are out of closed session here, so we're ready for you. Alright, thanks.
Alright, and no decision was made in closed session, so when Tammy gets back, she can add that to the notes.
Yeah.
Looks like it still shows 6 months in here, that motion.
What? Oh, Doug's motion.
Carter said earlier they did 9 months instead of 6. So. May have to update that.
Hi, Doug. Good morning.
Morning, Doug.
Renee.
Here's a motion, Tammy, we're gonna have to kinda do some amending as.
Instead of 6.
Yep, yep. Alright, Doug, I think we are ready whenever you are, and I said no decision, by the way.
You did say no decision?
Yep.
Okay.
So you can put that in minutes.
Okay.
Yes, the Planning and Zoning Commission met last night, yesterday afternoon, to discuss the moratorium on the construction, applications for construction of large-scale solar energy systems. Had some discussion. After the discussion, they held a public hearing. There were no comments from the public. After the public hearing, they recommended to the Board of Supervisors that a 9-month moratorium be placed, during which Kossuth County will not accept or process any applications for the construction of large-scale utility solar energy systems. I provided a motion in the board's folder. I don't know if the board would like to accept or reject the recommendation to issue or not issue a moratorium, but we need to complete that motion, I guess, and move forward from there.
Do you have an amended paper that says 9 months
I can
instead of
just-
6?
I can
or-
just cross it out.
I do not.
It's just a motion.
I mean,
don't
it's a
even need
motion, we
Yeah.
can simply word it the way the Board of Supervisors would
Yeah.
like it worded.
Yeah.
Okay, but what planning and zoning did was 9 months, you said, correct?
They recommended to the Board of Supervisors a 9-month moratorium, yes.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this?
I'd make a motion to accept the recommendation of the Kossuth County Planning and Zoning Commission
Do you wanna,
regarding the solar moratorium.
do you wanna continue and state the time
Oh,
frame?
okay. To accept the recommendation of Kossuth County Planning and Zoning commission's recommendation to issue a moratorium of 9 months duration, during which Kossuth County will not accept or process any applications for the construction of large scale or utility scale solar energy systems.
Alright. There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion or questions, a roll call vote please.
Plath,
Yes.
Jerks,
Abstain.
Wactor,
Yes.
Nath,
Yes.
Stecker.
Yes. Alright, motion carries unanimous, 4-0.
So now the board will need to amend the zoning ordinance. And I don't know if who you'd like to, this is just for the moratorium adding that to the ordinance. And then the board will have to, select some way of writing an ordinance for that. If I may, I'd like to include some discussion that was held after the resolution was passed by the zoning commission, planning and zoning commission. We had a gentleman by the name of Luke Seaboard, excuse me, and he is an employee of the Iowa State University Extension and Outreach. He deals in regulation of land. And Luke has received a grant to begin a pilot project. The program is designed to provide unbiased research based on educational information to communities. Luke has proposed a 3-hour meeting open to the public to present reputable information on solar development. Also to present other entities that have regulated solar energy and educating some of the fundamental science technology about solar energy. Really, it's just a way of presenting some information and then facilitating discussion amongst the people that attend the meeting. The Planning and Zoning Commission thought that this was an excellent opportunity. They suggested if this was to happen in early September, prior to harvest. But ultimately, I think it's the Board of Supervisors' decision whether or not to move forward with this. The Planning and Zoning Commission said they support it. So I just wondered if the Board of Supervisors would like to move forward with that. I certainly will contact Luke Seabold and go from there.
And that's a 3-hour event.
It's a 3-hour
evening.
event, early evening is kind of
Okay, yeah.
what the Board of, or what the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended.
Yeah, I would think that would be a good time, early September, and definitely in the evening so people can come after work.
And Luke is not affiliated with any commercial
Correct.
organizations, he's
Yeah.
just a unbiased,
With ISU.
yep, with Iowa State.
And his grant is from a neutral, it isn't,
Right.
his grant is not from any kind of a system that for or against. It's very
Right.
neutral based, is what Lucas said.
Yeah, so if we could check on, whether that be the 2nd and the 9th, September would be the first 2 weeks. On Monday,
Second Labor Day.
That's Labor Day.
Oh, yep, so if that, well, those would be the first 2 weeks, so we wouldn't do that Labor Day, but like 3rd, 9th, or 10th maybe, in the beginning of the week, or did he say any preference on
He
time?
did not say anything of day of week or anything. And he he implied that he could do it in the morning, the afternoon, or early evening. So, like I said, the board, the Planning and Zoning Commission suggested something to begin at 5, so when people get off work, they're able to attend.
Yeah.
I can
Well, we
certainly
can let-
visit a little bit with him and get some days and times.
So I was gonna say, let you communicate with him.
Okay,
Yeah, that'd be good if he can get some options to us for dates. And then we could set a date and get some information out there to the public that we'll be holding it. Anything else for the, solar discussion? Alright, if not,
will the board be going through the process of amending the zoning ordinance?
do we need to engage an attorney for that, or?
Well, you need to publish the ordinance, have your readings, go through the legal process in order to make it official. It's part of the county home rule and the process of creating legislation.
Does anyone have a preference on how to handle that process?
Well, we're gonna need an attorney opinion on it. At some point in the process regardless. So,
Allers and Cooney?
whether we go with Taylor and Cooney or, yeah,
I mean, they've been working with us on the pipeline, and I know that's not the same ordinance, but they're familiar with our current ordinances, so to save time and money, I think we should go with the same people that we've been working with.
I think if the board would set their priorities for what you're wanting in the ordinance and being very specific prior to an attorney seeing it, that will save them a lot of time and us money trying to communicate and go back and forth. Just to, if we had a good, we don't have to have the ordinance written, just a good idea of, this is our template, this is what we want in it,
Mhm.
send us something back.
Well, and that, I mean, the actual attorney final document is another conversation, but as far as moving forward with getting the moratorium incorporated so it's effective,
Well, that will have to be published, won't it? The moratorium.
Todd, our county attorney has prepared a resolution. So I think a lot of the work has been done.
okay,
Would the board like to have our county attorney involved in that? Or if you would, I can certainly visit with our county attorney and talk to him about getting the process correct.
if he's willing and able to, that'd be a great place, I just didn't know if he'd be willing to take that on.
A few months ago, he was present when we were talking about this.
Sounds good, how long do you think your, report will be, Doug, time-wise, do you have any idea? I know in here you got 15 to 30 minutes in your form.
I don't foresee it, taking longer than 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay,
Oh,
just, I was just curious, cause we have a hearing at 10 AM, so. If you'd prefer to do that now, we can start, or we can come back to it after that hearing.
It's up to you guys.
get through what we get through, that's
Okay.
fine.
Well, let's start and see how far we get.
Again, there's a couple of documents in the board's folders. One is called the official report of County Highway Engineer, Kossuth County. This is a document that is required to be submitted to the Department of Transportation prior to September 15th. This is an annual report for fiscal year 2024. Sheet 2 of the report is a financial sheet summary, and the first part of that is the expendable income. The auditor's balance on July 1 of 2023 in the secondary road fund was $6,393,794.64. The total receipts received by the secondary road fund was $10,548,669.10, giving a total funds that to be accounted for of $16,942,463.74. Expenditures during the fiscal year of 2024 in engineering and administration amounted to $883,839.36. In construction, there was $2,048,977.15. In roadway maintenance, $4,834,594.31. In general roadway expenditures, there was $3,903,205.52, giving total expenditures in the fiscal year 2024 of $11,670,616.34, leaving us a balance of $5,271,847.40, leaving us total funds accounted for of $16,942,463.74, which is the same amount accounted for through the expendable income at the top of the sheet. Obligated expenses during for fiscal year 24, bills that were not paid or obligated for equipment, materials, and supplies, that amounted to $2,649,614.57. And then construction amount obligated for local construction projects is $1,013,238.53. So our total obligated expenses on June 30, expenses that have not been made yet, were $3,662,853.10. So our unobligated balance is really $1,608,994.30. The next page is receipts to the secondary road department. Again, the county's beginning balance on July 1 of 2023 was $6,393,794.64. From rural basic, Kossuth, the road department received $1,912,519. From general basic property taxes, the road fund received $283,995.88. Local option sales tax, the road fund received $750,000. Road use tax funds, regular road use tax, the road department received $6,703,914.72. Time 21 funds, the road department received $756,519.81. And then the city farm to market extension funds, the road department received $62,908.08. We also received in tax refunds, this would be for gasohol, $11,979.08. miscellaneous receipts, which are listed below real estate rent, $30,185.50. Used material, $3,178.69. License and permits, this would be moving permits, $33,468.34. Giving us a total miscellaneous of $66,832.53. So total receipts to the secondary road fund amounted to a total of $10,548,669.10. Sheet 4 breaks down the engineering and administration and also took into consideration some reimbursement copy fees. So the net expenditures for the administration and the engineering was $697,635.47. On sheet 5, Kossuth County local construction costs. We had some day labor, which is labor that our county crews completed on some of our construction projects, and then the contract amount. Day labor amounted to $42,193.54. Contract construction paid out was $2,034,717.15, giving us a total of $2,091,170.69 of local construction costs. Page 6 is roadway maintenance for bridges and culverts, maintenance to roads. The net expenditures, we did have some reimbursements for some granular material, entrances that are constructed, tile intake reimbursement, that would be some of the drainage work that the road department does and gets reimbursed for, and then miscellaneous reimbursements. Net expenditures on roadway maintenance amounted to $3,679,551.89. Roadway maintenance continued. Snow and ice control, we did have some reimbursements in that, but the net expenditures for snow and ice control was $146,041.77. Traffic control, net expenditures $373,287.38. Road clearing, this would be spraying of brush, mowing, brush cutting, those types of things. We had a net expenditure of $322,789.26. So that ended up, if you go back to sheet 2, I think is what it is, it talks about the expenditures in the fiscal year. Roadway maintenance, those all added up to $4,834,594.31. The general roadway expenditures, we had expenditures on new equipment of $1,154,203. Equipment operations, we did have some reimbursements for gasoline, diesel fuel, some utility rebates. Net expenditures on equipment operations, $2,567,431.25. Tools and materials, $70,813.30. And real estate and buildings, we had $110,757.97. And again, if you go back to the page 2, that shows in the general roadway of $3,903,205.52. Sheet 9, indebtedness. Kossuth County Secondary Roads has no debt. Sheet 10-1 through sheet 10- 10-8 are reports on locally funded bridge construction projects, which we've talked about a little bit of the day labor and the contract dollars that were spent on those. Instead of going through each project, if the board would like to read that, they may. But that's summarized on the construction sheet that was went over earlier. Sheet 11, 1 through 4 is an inventory of Kossuth County road department equipment, showing the pickups, trucks, maintainers, loaders, excavators, mowers, and things that, the inventory that we use for our day-to-day work. Sheet 12 is expenditures for the secondary road that is not accounted for through the secondary road fund. This is part of the insurance on real estate and equipment that is paid through the general fund. We reviewed last year's insurance bill and attributed $180,000 approximately to the secondary road department, and that $180,000 is broken up into the administration, engineering, and all the other portions of the roadway maintenance program. So we have about $180,000 expenditures to the secondary road not accounted for through the secondary road fund. Sheet 13 is a local effort provision worksheet. The first section of that is a tabulation of actual receipts. So through the rural basic, we levied for the road department $1.48244 for the valuation. The maximum that can be levied for roads out of rural is $3.38, but the dollar amount for that is $1,912,519. General basic is levied at $0.16844, giving a dollar amount of $283. The max that can be levied for general basic to the road department is 16 7/8 cents. So we're near max on that. Total tax receipts, property tax receipts is $2,196,514.88. Local option sales tax received in the road fund is $750,000. And then also provided for, other funds provided for secondary road purposes from the immediate prior sheet is $180,000, giving us total receipts of $3,126,514.88. Calculation of maximum revenue potential, according to code section 331-429, rural value, all property value multiplied by 16 7/8 cents is $284,512. Rural property, the maximum at $3.38 provides $3,875,188.58. So the maximum property revenue for the road department, the road fund, would be $4,159,700.58. To see whether we comply with the local effort provision, you take the minimum requirement, which is 75% of that $4,159,000, and that 75% is $3,119,775.44. The actual, money going to the road department, local effort going to the road department is $3,126,514.88. So that gives a local percentage, local effort percentage of 75.16. So we are over the 75% requirement. Then we have some statements of final cost of construction, and again, a lot of this is contained in the contract. There are some federally funded projects and farm to market funded projects in this as well. And then the annual report notes, the only note really is the expenditures not accounted in the secondary road fund, and that's just a note that it's property and equipment insurance. The second report that's in your folder is another report, and if a person just went looking at dollars received and dollars expended, instead of having dollars that are reimbursed to different things, this second report just shows that. It also repeats a lot of things that were just put in the official report for the Iowa Department of Transportation. Page 2 of 6 of that, the administration and the engineering amounted to be dollars spent, $884,121.36. 7.44% of the expenditures was made out for the administration and engineering. Construction total was $2,048,977.15. That's 17.25% of the total expenditures. Roadway maintenance amounted to a total of $4,937,086.13, or 41.56%. And then general roadway expenditures amounted to $10,298.51, or 33.76%. Total expenditures total $11,880,483.15. The auditor's ending balance was $5,271,847.40, leaving the total expenditures and ending balance is $17,152,330.55. Obligated expenses, which are shown again on page 3 of $3,662,853.10, giving us an unobligated balance on June 30 of 2024 of $1,608,994.30. Receipts for the secondary road fund, we began the year July 1, 2023 with a balance of $6,393,794.64. Property taxes, we had $2,196,514.80. That's a 20 and 4/200% of the total revenue, total receipts. Local option sales tax is $750,000. That is 6 and 97/100% of total receipts. Regular road use tax amounted to $7,523,342.61, which is 69.93% of all the receipts. And then we had miscellaneous receipts of $288,678.42, which is 2.68% of the receipts. So our total receipts amounted to $10,758,535.91. You add that to the beginning balance, and that's $17,152,330.55, which is the expenditures plus the ending balance to equal. Sheet 4 of 6 is a breakdown of obligated expenditures We had construction costs, we had maintenance projects that we have obligated money to, and then equipment details it a little bit more of the $3,662,853.10. Sheet 5 of 6 goes through the farm to market construction. This is all the money that is administered through the Department of Transportation for Kossuth County. Our beginning balance on July 1 of 2023 at the Department of Transportation in our farm to market fund was $2,433,931.16. That's a negative number. We are allowed to borrow head money on farm to market. We do not have to pay any interest on that. That's money that other counties are not using. So they manage that and they allow us to do that. We had receipts of $3,362,198.20. We had disbursements of $4,551,994.05, leaving us an ending balance of negative $3,623,727.01. We have obligated construction on June 30, 2024. Projects that are under contract right now of $542,952.62. So our unobligated balance on June 30, 2024 in our farm market fund was a negative $4,166,679.63. The two tables below show the receipts to the farm market account. You can see the road use tax amount that goes in monthly with federal bridge construction dollars that are spent or received into the account, and then the disbursements on the projects through the farm market account. And then sheet 6 of 6 goes through expenditures and budgeted amounts and shows whether we comply with county expenditure rules and Iowa code expenditure rules. So you can see with our expenditures what we had budgeted, what we expended, and then whether they comply with expenditure rules or whether they comply with code rules. Everything does comply. And then our local effort, again, it goes through the calculation showing that our maximum secondary road revenue potential was $4,159,700.58, and our local effort was $3,127,031.06, which is 75.1744%, which complies with the rules. So quickly, that was those two reports. And if the board would just make a motion to acknowledge that and accept the report, I would need that, and I will be submitting this to the DOT, so.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
I make that motion. I'll second Jack's motion.
Do we have any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carried unanimous.
I'm gonna go get my.
Yep, we are already after 10, so,
You want to just
we'll-
give me a call when you want to
Yep.
come back?
thanks Doug, we will let you know. We'll take a couple minutes here, we'll get Marge, and if everyone can sign in, I think there's a sign sheet back there.
She's got a drainage.
She might have a special
She's
one,
got a
so
special one. with drainage.
we'll take a couple minutes and get set up for that.
I'm gonna stop down and sign. We signed this one or a different one?
If you sign that one, you don't.
I did, but.
When do they think they're gonna go through?
You're bringing it up.
I don't know if they have one specific to this year or not.
That's How
Either
big is
way,
one under
no, you're
highway? 42?
Thank you.
There's a 36. That's a big bore.
It's 36.
36. That's still a big bore.
Yeah.
Good. Whoops.
There's a sheet. If you sign on there, it's okay. As long as you're on one.
Drove by your place.
That's Trevor's deal, I put some cans. Cause he's been saying, what there is, he kinda got faded all in all. No, he started early this summer, he just drove around, picking up cans and
Yeah.
he's like, you know what, I'm just gonna put a trash can in the lane and hear people start going. He gets some.
I thought it was so we don't stuff them in your.
Well, that too. Yeah, we touched you. You got 55 bucks for the can.
That blood draw was where he's talking to gas, because that one that he saves.
Jesus. Yeah, but the sad part for him was, if you made $55, I said, but you owe me 40 now for all the gas you can drink.
Sweep up my place, I'll just go by.
Well, he got two green trash cans.
Sorry.
Oh,
Fine, yeah.
You can pass that around, you don't have to get up if you want to. This one is for the actual hearing, and that's just for the, so either one, but if you're on here for hearing, you need to sign that.
I see you in church there, on some of the and stuff, so. That has a good kind of new
Yes, they should be in, okay.
There's a couple of things for 20. Did you hand out the reclass for main 1, 4, and then the report? Is that what you handed out?
Yes, yep. My computer won't let me. Oops, never mind.
Oh, okay.
I went outside and it was about 6 this morning, it was cold. Yeah. Alright, Mike.
Alright, is everyone ready to get started here? Okay. So we are after 10 o'clock. I would entertain a motion to open this informational meeting for DD 20, main 1 and main 4. Thank you. Okay, Josh seconded. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carried unanimous. Alright, we can open up this informational meeting. I think you guys all got some handouts there, right? Does everyone have those papers? Okay. I guess I'll open it up, whoever wants to start. Roger, I don't know if you wanna say anything, you were more involved in this than I would've been, but.
Long time ago project.
Yeah, it was.
Isn't there a statute of limitations that you can't go back that far? It's 12 years. Just crazy.
I know.
First, why don't you guys explain why you happen to find money or short or what? Why are we here? Why is this going on now?
So, with the situations that happened last year, which some of you guys would have been involved in on DD4, lateral 4 and lateral 2, we realized there was a difference between the outstanding balances and what was supposed to come in on waivers yet. So this year, we looked at all the rest of the drains to make that comparison and found that this one as well was not on track, so to speak. And I know you guys are all frustrated by being here and having this bill, and I'm frustrated by the situation as well. It's something that should not have gotten to this point, and I will do everything in my power individually to make sure that it doesn't happen again, but
Yeah. Courthouse problem, not our problem.
it's gonna happen again then?
So how many
No.
other districts have the same problem? Now that you
Are you
went
just
through
picking on
everybody's.
Ramsey Township, or is it the whole county? Never hear
there's-
nothing about any other place.
there's about half a dozen.
We can't hear you, you're gonna have to speak
There's about half a dozen districts that this
And
is
over half of
affecting.
them are in Ramsey Township. That sure seems odd.
I don't have any explanation for a project from back in 2012. I don't,
We
that's
sure got
all.
an explanation to charge us extra.
Well,
Statute of limitations is over. You're out of luck.
so instead of just saying we earned this money, do you have how much was assessed? Can we see a report that shows this is what all of us paid, 'cause we all have that, what the expenses were? I mean, you're just coming up with a number? I mean, do we trust that number? Is there
Yeah.
reports that you can show us that, or are every tile project kept separate? I mean,
How
there
do we
should
know
be
you're not
reports
wrong
of-
now? That you were right the first time, but now you're saying you're wrong? Now
Because
you're
you need
right?
money.
We need reports that tell us where you're coming up with
You
these
can't
figures.
just come up with a number
We need
without proof of something.
something handed to us shortly before we gotta pay it and say, well, there it is.
And,
Maybe we need
and
to
that's
make up for
also,
damages.
that's also the purpose of these informational meetings, to have the conversation before the assessments show up in your mailbox this fall. So if there are, of course, there are going to be questions and we wanna get those answered. And
So where's the report?
This,
You
This-
come up with these numbers, there's gotta be a way to come up with these numbers.
Yeah, how did you just come up with this number you found?
You were wrong on lateral 4 last year, and what's saying you're right on this one? And if it's, you say yesterday, maybe it's McClure, who knows? If it is McClure, maybe they should cover it.
and we had that conversation with them last year, and they said they provided the information for the construction costs, and that's what their tabulations were based off of, but interest was not factored into it.
So whose fault was that?
Yeah.
What was that?
I thought that they're gonna make that, it's not that far.
Nobody cares.
Somebody present or past, they answered up to these questions.
Land from solutions.
You keep saying it was the past supervisors, was
I
it?
thought we were making copies.
So do we know the total price or cost of the
This
project?
one tells what's what.
Cause I've got some papers that, back to,
I think there was one that had the same cost.
what do we call it, the closing or the whatever.
Completion hearing.
Yeah, completion, I've got that. So what number are you guys coming up with what it costs to do that project? There should be an easy, type that number in and you guys should have that cost all right there.
That should be ready available to you right now.
It looks like you're hiding something, is the way it looks, without being able to go and just print that off.
You should have numbers to back up your figures.
Yes. Okay, so
So is this money going to pay interest on outstanding warrants? Is that what this is for then?
Yes,
So so LAT 2 main
so
1,
here's,
and I'm not an expert at looking this stuff up. So I looked up all these funds under 51103, which is the fund, or is it also the trust number for LAT 2 main 1.
yes, that's the one, that's the one.
And there's all these funds here, 3 pages worth of warrants that say not paid for want of funds. Does that mean, so they go back to 2012. So that means no interest has been paid on these since they're still valid?
so the function behind the warrants is when they're called in, they have to call in an entire warrant, so they have to have the principal and interest value for the warrant to call them in. So since those are not called in, the entire principal and interest amount, since they've been issued, is due yet.
So this not paid for want of funds means no interest and no principal has been paid back to these warrant holders for the warrants that were issued back in 2012 for this project.
Yep.
How long can a warrant go on legally? I mean, can this just go on 100 years,
For the length of the waivers.
the length of the waivers?
I don't think the warrants are tied to the waiver length.
But I thought it was only 2 years, I thought you had to cash a warrant in within 2 years.
No.
No,
But
You don't have to
we
pay
can
warrants
receive
off within
funds,
2 years?
so
we can
we'll be
receive
collecting
funds on waivers for the
Right.
length of the waivers. Warrants are separate from waivers. Waivers are a deferred payment for assessments.
Yep, and then I'm not talking
Yep.
about a waiver, but are you
Yeah,
saying?
so to my knowledge, I'm not aware of any limit on time frame of
This is.
warrants. But in the code, I don't know the section off the top of my head, but it does have a reference to things should be assessed out within 2 years. I don't have that code section, but we are.
Well, I think it's
always after that.
468-127, it says it has to be assessed within 2 years of the project's completion.
What was that, 127 you said?
468.127. So if it's supposed to be assessed within 2 years, why are we getting it 12 years later? And there's 3 sheets of warrants here. No, I printed this off.
So this is what was assessed. This is, as of June.
what is that?
This is, your picture.
Jack or Roger, do you have anything? I mean, this is a long time ago, so.
This is based on the divorce stuff. No, I'm just having- that's what this total is. This is-
So if I think there's a question on waivers, if people sign up for waivers, they pay the interest on those waivers themselves, so it's not a transitioning of their interest to the rest of the district. If people sign up for waivers, their waivers also
What are
are
waivers?
charged.
Just explain what a waiver is and a warrant.
So,
'Cause I'm-
when assessments are issued, and just to the fundamentals of your question, when assessments are issued, you have the choice to pay it all up front at the beginning or waive it out over the period that the board sets, usually 10, 20 years. I think it's up to 20 is the time frame we can set. So basically that's like a payment for a car or a land purchase or whatever. It just extends your payment out over that number of years. And if you sign up for waivers, you have your principal balance for the waiver, but then you also have the interest for those waivers because the people that signed up for those waivers pay their own interest. So if people sign up for waivers, that shouldn't affect the end result. If the assessment was correct in the beginning, it should all shake out in the right order at the end, regardless of
And a
waivers or
warrant
not.
is what?
What's that?
And then a warrant is what?
The warrant would be what the board issues as payment for services that are rendered on behalf of the district, whether it's contractor, engineer, attorney, whatever. Warrants are issued to pay those, in place of handing cash over because of the funding mechanisms and all that in the code. So a warrant is basically a check that you can't cash on day one.
Somebody holds that warrant, either the contractor or a bank buys them.
Yep.
Or an individual, and they're held until the money comes in to pay it off with interest. And then they're called in when there's enough money in the district account to pay for them, and the treasurer calls them in, and then they're paid off.
And the warrant, the value of the warrants, they're lower interest than like a line of credit or something like that at a bank because they're guaranteed by the land in the district through the code of Iowa. So that's why they're considered secure or stable. But that's the mechanism of paying bills.
So how many dollars worth of waivers are on this project yet?
57,709.
No, that's.
No, that's what the remaining
Oh,
balance.
waivers?
Yeah, there's no waivers.
There's no
The
waivers
waivers
left.
are done, that's why we noticed that.
So there aren't any waivers left.
So then all these warrants should have been called in, the project's paid off.
If the assessment had had the right dollar figure in the beginning, it would have been. So the long and short of it is the initial assessment was short.
So when were the waivers paid off? When was everything paid off?
You mean the warrants?
That's what people are going back and forth between the two.
Yeah, and the terminology is confusing. The waivers
Warrants
is,
yet that ain't paid.
Right.
yeah, so the warrants that are outstanding is representing the shortfall in the initial assessment.
So you're charging us what's short, but shouldn't we know what the cost of the project was and what you assessed us?
Yes.
Shouldn't that be available? Because I thought it was over anyway.
Yeah, those figures, Marge?
Original.
Yes, and I apologize, we've worked on this for 2 days and I was positive that we had the reports, and apparently we didn't make copies of the right ones. We do have that information and it should have been submitted to you today, so I apologize for that.
So, I guess how the different things work. Your office keeps track of what was spent on this project,
Yes,
and
Marge.
then you send it over to who that assigns us our assessment.
So the board approves the assessments, so, but what happened, I wasn't here, but from what I'm gathering, they did not assess the right amount because the interest was not calculated by the contractor or engineer, and nobody caught it. We should have had checks and balances in place that would have caught that, and we didn't. And so it didn't get assessed enough, so that's why there's not money to pay.
But we should be able to see how
The
much
warrant.
actually
Yes.
got assessed.
Yes,
And we should know the
yes,
total
and we
project
have,
cost.
yes,
Yep.
and we have that information.
So you're saying the right amount was assessed?
No,
Oh.
No,
but
No.
the Sanford
added.
interest wasn't included in the original.
the right amount was not assessed because interest was
Was
not
not
figured
added.
in.
No, you don't understand what I'm saying. The right amount of the cost of the project was assessed, but the interest wasn't calculated.
Correct.
Correct.
The interest is still a cost
Part
to
of
the
the-
project, so the right amount was not assessed.
When I had mine up in this page here,
Okay.
I'm like $2,000 difference than the paper I have in my pickup right now. So where are we getting the two different numbers? I've got this same sheet from 2013 also, that the project comes up 942, mine's 179,000. This one I added up says 177.
So there's interest on it.
So-
There's interest on that.
Is this is lower than what I have that said what I paid. How are we at two sets of numbers? So I wanna know what you're coming up with. Is this from 2013?
Yes.
That's what was
That's
given to
Because
you.
mine is also because cost went over, so it was more than what this is.
And if
So
there
we got
was,
assessed more than what this says.
Right. You should have been assessed more than that says.
yeah,
Yes.
So why would you give us this one if it's not the latest version?
Okay, we're giving you that to show you what you received at the drainage hearing, the completion hearing. So you know the difference between what you were given and what should have been
But I'm
given.
not counting my interest.
What do you mean you're not counting your interest?
Well, mine was the sheet I got from 2013 is 2,000 more than what this one's saying I paid.
your
That I got assessed.
your actual assessment was higher by
Yes,
2,000?
Yes.
Okay,
So what kind of a response do you get from the engineers when you tell them that they screwed up on calculating interest in 6 districts in one township?
Yeah, it's the same engineer on each of the projects, but
Well, I mean, whether it's 1 or 20, I mean, there are people that charge the county hundreds of thousands of dollars to do a professional service and have a professional liability insurance policy on their business, I'm pretty sure. And, they can go tell you a grade coefficient and all sorts of other engineering jargon, but they can't figure out how to calculate interest. And then they're just let, they get to walk away and oops, slap on the hand, we'll just send the bill to the landowners. Why doesn't somebody else ever have to be accountable? Why is it always us? I mean, you guys have county attorneys. Have you ever had a county, Todd Holmes, look into going after their professional liability policy?
Was it their mistake or internally here?
I guess you could say both. Because it should have been caught. There should have been a balance that could have checked that the interest was missing.
and that's one of our changes going forward is for the report the board gets when we set assessments. Previously, there was not a comparison between what is outstanding, for liabilities against the drain and outstanding warrants versus the dollar value of the waivers that have yet to come in. And if that comparison had been done, this should have been caught a long time ago. So
So when did the waivers quit coming in on this project?
regardless of when the waivers quit coming in, if you would have had a comparison from outstanding bills to pay versus income coming in, that simple comparison, regardless of the timing, regardless of the dollar figure, regardless of all those other details, that simple comparison would have shown the issue at hand, and
I just wanna know, cause I wanna know how many years this has been sitting this way.
well, it's been sitting this way since the beginning, since the assessment was done.
Now, the waivers, there was people paying waivers.
Oh,
When did
yeah.
Waivers,
So we're like,
actually, when was the last waiver paid?
That's a good
Well-
question, I don't know that answer right
Well,
now.
if there aren't any waivers on file anymore, this project's been paid off, right?
The initial assessment has been paid off,
So
yes.
then somebody must have, the furthest anybody must have went out was a 10-year waiver, and it must have
Probably.
been paid up in 2022.
Either then-
Give or take
yeah.
a year.
And it could have been
Is-
paid early, if they signed up for waivers, they still could have paid, they could have signed up for 20-year waivers if that's what the board gave, and they could have paid it off in 3, 4, 5, so it's not necessarily tied to a timeline, but I don't know when the last one was paid.
So Tanya, Mark, when you get the total project cost and stuff, you use a computer program to put this into?
we do now.
They didn't.
We do.
That computer program has a place that you have to put in an interest amount, so it's calculated?
The treasurer's office would have that report, and I have access to that just this last year.
So, I mean, it would, seems to me like it would come up as an error, like, well, you gotta,
It was
Right,
never
you
done
can-
that way before.
Yes.
It's always been done, in my mind, incorrectly. And so there was no checks and balances.
Well, the treasurer got the warrants and we never really got to look at it.
We
Yeah.
could have asked for them and we didn't.
Yeah, that's,
So that's not an
Right.
excuse.
So if it's done
That's-
incorrectly, then every project in this county should be done incorrectly.
No, because
The amount of waivers that come in can offset some of that, and that's what the engineers always promoted was the waivers will pay for the interest. And, in my understanding, that's how Norma did this one on the sheet for 2013. And so just following what was before me, I followed through that. And so depending on the number of waivers, there are some that are correct. And the others, if there weren't enough waivers, it didn't offset the interest. So it was done incorrectly for getting the stamp warrant interest to start with.
the other engineers that do our projects, like Bolton and Mink, they include their interest in their projects. And that's where the issue has come up, is you should be able to check and make sure that that interest is included. And there wasn't anything done to make sure that, so,
All the first projects are wrong.
yes.
yep,
And we have gone through the list of all the projects, of all the drains, and double checked. And we are working on the ones that are an issue. So we have, Kyle and I went through them all yesterday, again. And we are double checking all of them, and we are doing everything we can to make sure that there are checks and balances and that this does not happen again. And I do apologize for not having the right reports today, because we were set to have that information for you.
yeah.
I know you said we're not supposed to mention it about that lateral 4, but how come that changed from last year?
Like I told you, that was not, last year it wasn't being compared of how much waivers were yet to come in this
You
year.
didn't realize that last year when you sent us out an assessment that was bogus. You just, oh, I'm sorry, now it's less this year.
And
We're supposed to feel good about anything you assess out to us?
I
Without a
understand,
report, we can't just accept the dollar amounts you're coming up with. Is that fair, or?
No, it's not.
yeah. Did you have your hand up?
Yeah, where is drain 4? I came in to see, Mrs. Dean. Is that your last name?
Marge.
Morgan.
Okay,
Tim,
Marge.
yeah.
And all the maps that she has could not show me where drain 4 was.
Or the main four.
Main 4.
Excuse me.
Yeah, so I can't I can't speak for 100% certainty, but Marge and I did look at the maps and we looked at the reclassification schedule, which would have been what the engineers would have put together for benefit. And there's poor labels in many places on our drainage maps, which McClure also did. We spent 6 figures on them updating our maps, and as far as I'm concerned, they're garbage. But there is a tile system that I believe represents that classification schedule. It's on the lower end. I don't have I'll pull it up on the map so I can tell you like the township and sections. But we did look at that the other day to try to be able to explain where that was. So in drain 20, you have main 1 at the north end, main 2 kind of in the middle, and main 3 towards the bottom. But then where I think it was, this looks a little bit different. I think it's the upper portion, above main 1 where it loops up and extends out to the west, because there's like John Hellman, your piece in section 8, I believe that was on the reclassification schedule, and we were trying to correlate stuff to that, to understand exactly where it went, but it's got stuff that's labeled as lateral 2, but if I remember right with the classification schedule, that's the one that made sense the most. For main 4. Yeah, so like, for John Hellman's piece, it shows in the northeast of section 8, there's 21 acres, and then southeast of northeast, there's 27. And that upper system is the only thing that crosses the road. So it's got a lateral 2J on the map that shows going that direction, but that's like farther down on that. If that's considered main 4, that's the only thing that would make sense, based on the schedule. But like I said, we've got a lot of issues with our maps. I don't know if they're better or worse after they were updated, but my best knowledge on where that is based off of the reclassification schedule. I don't know if you know anything about the location, Roger, if you remember that project being built at all.
I can't remember it, but what I remember, the main 4 was the main tile that we stuck in, dumping into the slough. That's what I remember.
On my map, they have that listed as main 16.
I don't know, there's a lot of issues with these maps, and we're trying to update them on a case-by-case basis when we know where there's issues or know what the correct thing should be. We're trying to have our GIS update them, but
all I've heard sitting here for 35 minutes, listening to the conversation, is the mistakes were by the engineer and Kossuth County. Yet all these people sitting back here are getting held accountable for it. What about your guys' insurance? Shouldn't somebody be on engineering or the county? I mean, mistakes happen, I get it, but that's what you have insurance for, right? So why are we all accountable sitting back here for mistakes that we did not make?
You got paid in good faith. Didn't have to pay interest for 12 years.
Everything for the last 35 minutes, I've
That
heard
we paid
engineer's
in
fault and Kossuth County fault, not our fault.
That's right.
We did look into our insurance, we filed a claim with them with situations last year. And they wrote a letter back that it was not something that our
I
policy
think you
covered.
better get a different insurance company, because they're not taking care of you or us.
So can we get a copy of that letter you sent to?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you ever just go back to the warrant holders and say, hey, we screwed up, by the way, we're not gonna pay you interest?
There you go. Why can't you do that?
Tell them you screwed up.
Yeah.
Don't tell us.
Let them take a little bit of it.
The bad thing is, one, I don't think we can functionally do that, that's the first thing, but the other is because they're paid first in time, if this was a issue that affected the whole project and interest wasn't incorporated, the ones that have already been paid would have been paid their principal and interest, so the people that are the last ones to get paid are not any different as the ones that were the first ones to get paid in the project. They all hypothetically would share in that, but it's not a mistake they made either. And I, like I said, I don't know if
Can we
that's.
see who didn't get paid, so we actually know if these are real people, or if it's just something that got drawn out of the air?
No, the list of outstanding warrants is a report that we can print and provide.
So, at one time with last year's deal, didn't you say the warrants get sold off?
They can be. That's up to whoever is issued, like whether it's a contractor or engineer or whoever, or a landowner with crop damages. If you got paid crop damages, you could walk into a bank and say, hey, I'll sell
I
this.
get that, but on your end, I thought last year on another project, that you guys sell off the.
Either the contractor keeps the warrants.
The total cost of this project,
Or the bank.
the county isn't holding the, let's say we still owe $1 million on the project, you don't have the $1 million, it gets sold to another bank or something, or another entity, is that true?
Or a contractor holds it.
The county's no longer in possession of that money.
We're not paying anything. The county's not paying anything.
Yeah, I'm not explaining myself correctly. I'm just wondering, you keep saying interest, is it interest because of the waivers or interest on the whole project that started back whenever?
It'd be interest on the warrants, which would be the bills that we paid during the project. So it would stem back to the initial project and the shortfall in the assessment.
Is all the principals been paid here?
This is not
The
good.
project?
There's no letter attached.
Right.
In your mind, yes, but
Lori.
technically,
I mean, by the landowners, is the principal paid on the project?
not
So
technically, no.
technically no, because that's where when,
Because some of the interest has been paid using the.
yeah, so it's a dollar that was intended to go here, went here plus here, so then it's
So the
not
dollar, but the dollar amount of the principal's been paid?
the dollar amount of the principal,
Okay,
yes.
so what we've all been assessed for just now is just for the interest, or what should have been interest?
Yes,
I think you'd make a lot of people feel better if we could get a report, this is probably the one that you're talking about, that says here's what the project cost, and it was assessed at that.
Yes.
Here's the missing interest, and here's what everybody else in the breakdown, would it be possible for everyone to get a copy?
Yes, absolutely.
and if everyone signed in with your, well, contact info, obviously, we have your address and stuff for sending stuff out, we can follow up with copies of that to everyone.
If you put the waivers, say we do a project now and you put the waiver out for 10 years, the interest is calculated on all 10 years then?
The people that sign up for waivers would pay their own interest on top of that principal balance that they would sign up for, so if they stretch it out over 10 years, it would
Yeah.
take care of itself,
Yeah.
so to speak.
We don't have to worry about that.
As long as the assessment is correct in the beginning, it will take care of itself in time.
So if the assessment, just say your assessment's $100,000 and there's 10,000 of its interest, and I paid it off in 2 years, you don't pay the whole amount of interest then? Is that correct?
Well,
I hope so. I'm more asking,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I'm just wondering if you're, it kind of sounds like now the assessments are given out including interest, which I assume the interest is calculated for the maximum amount of time of the waiver.
warrants are paid including interest. When they're called in from the treasurer's office, they pay the principal and the interest value of that warrant to the date they call it in.
So if they haven't, if I paid it off in 2 years and somebody had a warrant for 100 grand, they just call that in and his interest would be done.
So the interest in essence accrues per day. So once they're called in, they stop accruing interest 10 days after the warrant's called in. So once the funds are available and they're called in, that's when the interest shuts off for anyone that has
If you
warrants.
pay it off early, you may not pay your full assessed amount because some of that is interest, or is now. Is that right?
It won't be less because of paying early. It would be more if you spread it out. If you do a waiver for 10 years on 100,000, you'll pay your original 100,000 that you waived plus interest over that duration, whatever. If you set it for 10 years and you pay it off in 3, you would pay less than if you paid it off in 10.
Right.
But your original principal value of that assessment is what you would still pay right
Basically,
away.
the way I understand it is if you pay it off sooner, then the warrants can get called in sooner. So then the warrants would accrue less interest. So you're paying less interest, then that's less interest that's being paid out on those warrants.
Right, and I follow that you pay less interest, but if you're saying this was assessed wrong because the engineering didn't include the interest on it?
Yep.
So the interest is from the project itself. So interest starts once they call in the first warrant. So during that project, approve. So once they approve that first warrant during the project, that's accruing interest. That interest was not added into the project costs.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's very confusing.
No, I get it.
And it's
So
hard to
it's-
explain.
I get the difference when you said that pays your individual interest,
Yeah.
that's separate.
Yes, correct.
When are you gonna have that report ready to?
Well, I thought we had it, so, we can either try to figure it out here shortly after the meeting, or we can email it to everybody.
So back then, it wasn't in a computer system. So did you manually have to go enter all this stuff, or you're?
So, yeah, we've started a new spreadsheet, and we went in and entered all of this information and ran reports from what happened back then, what we have in outstanding warrants, what's been paid, and that's how we came up with the numbers that we came up with.
Do you see that letter?
No, it's not from her. I wonder if it's from.
Or would it just be in that time frame? Could it be before 4/1? 4.
Could be from this John. I get stuff from this John Lackey too.
Oh, go ahead, ma'am.
Would you clarify to everybody which sheet they're to sign to get your reports?
The one on the clipboard
Do it on the clipboard.
Okay, if it's on a clipboard, okay, but a lot of them sign the other one also,
That's fine.
Well,
as long as it's on both.
As long as it's on the clipboard, that's the one that matters.
Okay, thank you.
So who keeps track of these warrants? These warrants are 11 years old. Why in the world are you keeping warrants 11 years?
Cause there's no money to pay them.
So wouldn't you be looking before now?
we should have.
Yeah.
Okay, how
Yes.
old are all the warrants in Kossuth County? Have you got any more that are over 11 years old? They're probably wrong too.
No, we've checked all those.
You know, you should never leave them that long. Your office should be held accountable for having warrants for 11 years. You should be finding out what's going on for 11 years. Because now the poor farmers have to pay all that interest. And that isn't right. That isn't right. I still think somebody's gotta be held accountable, and it shouldn't be the farmers. Somebody's not doing their job. You know, if there's no money, you gotta figure out why before 11 years. It doesn't make sense. Does not make sense.
That's probably why the courthouse is so short on money, is nobody's doing their job. You're out in debt to be held, you're cutting this and cutting that, and because you don't know what you're doing up there.
Apparently.
So
And
the,
everybody's mad at you. Not just the farmers.
the general budget and drainage districts are not correlated together.
Same person works on it though. Somebody's not doing their job.
You just can't leave warrants. It just makes sense.
And they shouldn't have been left for this long. That's why we're changing things moving forward to make sure that this doesn't happen again. I can't speak to what was assessed back in 2012. That's a long time before I was on the board.
Checks and balances.
And there will be going forward.
Say they are. Say they are.
See your name on there.
I don't know. You know, if you bought a car 10 years ago and then the car dealer says, you know what? We figured it wrong. We're gonna make you pay more. How are you guys gonna like that? It's the same deal. Same deal. They paid in full 12 years ago. Their check said paid in full. And now you're finding that you didn't get enough money. Well, we can do that with your car. Oh, you didn't pay enough for that car. We're gonna make you pay more. It's the same deal. You know? So, you know, that's how we feel.
I understand the frustration and I don't.
I think you gotta go after your insurance companies and the engineers' insurance companies a little harder.
Yeah, because we do want copies of that letter that was sent.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to find that.
See how persuasive you really were.
Did you turn it into the engineer too and see if their insurance will pay?
I don't know if anything formal was filed, but we had I specifically had several conversations with them and they sent documents, like the ones we were talking about at that time, they sent the Excel documents that they used to put together the figures they had for the assessments at the time, and it showed construction costs, engineering costs, crop damages. There just was no calculation for interest. And I don't believe that they're required to provide that calculation in the code of Iowa. So I don't know that we would formally be able to hold them liable for that if it's not a professional requirement specifically. The board is responsible for assessments, and there wasn't a comparison done between what was outstanding and what was supposed to come in on waivers. That's, if that comparison had been done, it would have been caught, or it should have been caught within 1 year.
But it wasn't, so now we did everything right and we're gonna get penalized for it.
So who was supposed to put the interest on there? Who was supposed to put the interest on there?
We all paid in full, good faith, and now we get a bill.
But who was supposed to put the interest on there correctly? Whose job was that?
Answer.
Somebody has to.
Probably the drainage clerk.
So do they have liability insurance? I would assume you all would have professional liability insurance.
They're not here anymore.
Which engineer, was the one that did calculate the interest?
McClure.
McClure.
So when this project was started, is that in your scope of work? Like when you hand over what you want an engineer to do you have on your scope of work, calculate interest for project completion? Because I mean, if they do it on most of them, I mean, there has to,
Other firms do it.
Well, I mean, you have to, they're only gonna do whatever you employ them to do, ask them to do. Is it in the scope of work? Is, you know, will you do this, this, and this, figure out coefficients, do this, charges to be held, and then, by the way, figure interest? I mean, is that on there?
I don't know if the board has ever approved a scope of work for drainage engineers.
Well, they have to get their instructions from somebody. I mean, they don't just send them up to DD and 20 and say, hey, do some work. Somebody has to instruct them on what to do. I'm just curious as to how, if some engineers do figure interest, and I'm sure McClure, as many times as you've used them in the past, there has to be projects that they included interest on. Why not?
Not that I've seen.
Yeah.
So maybe they didn't get told they were supposed to?
When more people did waivers, more people covered waivers that covered the interest.
I don't know what they did on those other projects or who instructed them. In projects I've dealt with engineers on, it's action by the board to appoint an engineer in regards to a repair or improvement petition. And I've personally heavily coordinated with the engineers on those projects. I can't speak for everyone else, but I have been in close contact with the engineers doing projects in my district.
And you instruct them to include interest on all these projects?
I haven't specifically ever asked for that. They've done that on their own, as a professional courtesy.
Well, or is it just what the normal, you know, what's normal to do? I mean, if this is something that's normal for an engineer to do, calculate, you know, a 6-figure project, and, you know, it's probably not news to them that they need to figure out some interest. I mean, it shouldn't be the first time they ever encountered this. I mean, it really sounds like they, you know, they're the ones that screwed a lot of this up. So, you know, maybe if you go a little harder after the engineers, maybe people leave the county a little bit more alone. I mean, without you instructing Bolton and Mink and other engineering firms, it sounds like they include the interest in the cost of a project.
Typically, when we meet with those engineers before the project starts, we make that decision on what the interest is gonna be.
We set an interest rate, but we've never told them in this boardroom to calculate interest in their reports.
Sure.
Setting an interest rate is project specific. I believe that's a requirement in the code that you have to set that specific to each project. So that's a separate topic than what they put in their report.
But you're just talking about setting it for waivers.
Correct, for
Yeah,
the
you're not
for the
talking about,
warrants.
hey, this is a $700,000 project, it's gonna take 10 years, just go ahead and budget 5% interest. I mean, that's what there's gotta be some sort of break in the chain here in communication, because they're not providing you guys everything you need, or at least they didn't in the past.
Well, and
But
that's,
did they not provide it because they weren't told to, or did they not provide it because they're not doing their job?
Jack or Roger, you got any response to that?
I think there's a reason why McClure doesn't do drainage anymore.
Yeah, I can proudly say I haven't requested or
Repeat that,
hired.
Roger, we couldn't hear you.
They don't even do agriculture drainage anymore. I think they enough, I would call it an omission.
Here's an omissions. There's an omission insurance.
We tried once.
Better try again.
Yeah.
You know, I was in business for 30 years selling seed corn. If I came back to one of you guys and said, by God, I forgot to charge you for corn 12 years ago. You tell me where to go and how fast to get there. Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You would not believe me. Well, okay, forget the principal, I just want the interest after those 12 years. You tell me twice as fast how to get out of there.
Yeah.
I don't know if I just had that to me, went to the eye doctor and got some new glasses, thought it was all paid off. And, these 4 months later, I got a bill in the mail for like $100 more, but I don't know if they're paying.
That's,
$100 a little different.
I know, but I'm just saying, I know what you're saying.
He caught that in 1 month. This took 12 years.
Yeah.
Did they charge you interest on $100?
yeah, I think, I mean,
So we're,
I
that's
get,
pretty much true, we're gonna have to pay it. What happens if we don't?
More exercises, farm ground.
Why can't you put this off for another year and check your insurance out a bit better? That's kind of stuff. Instead of us-
so,
Plus the interest. Plus the interest.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I get you.
I think you should tell the people that have the warrants that you aren't gonna pay interest for 12 years.
If we all did our thing in good faith,
Okay.
They should have never stayed out that long, even if you didn't have the money. You need to contact them and say.
So this project's back in 17, you blaming this on the drainage clerk, or partially on the drainage clerk? Who was in 2017, was it the same drainage clerk?
2012?
No, this 2012 is one drainage clerk. Same thing's happening in 2017 and 18, and that was the same drainage clerk? Or is this a county problem? Who was the drainage clerk back then?
In 17, I was.
So it's a different drainage clerk from 2012 to now, so can't blame it all on the first drainage clerk, and the second drainage clerk did the same thing.
And that's where a simple check and balance of outstanding versus money.
Well, that's
coming-
obvious to us. We all handle checkbooks, we all handle money, we check and balance.
I
You
know.
would think you guys that are handling how many millions of dollars would maybe do checks and balances?
Well, they should have been in place and they weren't, and that will change going forward.
You're obviously a pretty incompetent county supervisors.
Well, these problems didn't start yesterday, so
No, but they've been going on all through this whole period and they haven't been caught.
they were caught last year, and this is the next assessment cycle.
How many more are you gonna find?
Happens in the end.
Yeah.
You're gonna
We're
go
sure
back-
FEMA's gonna come back on us for more too, probably.
They can start going back 20 years, 30 years.
So if we pay this one, do we have some type of guarantee that it's another 5 years, you're not gonna find something? I mean, when will it be done? When we know that that project is finished? Is there something? I mean,
When all the warrants are collected on that project, it's done, not until then. Bad answer, but that's the truth.
So DD 20, in our updated fall assessments, the sheet the board got this year, shows 33,410.87 plus interest, due for DD 20. The assessments are 49,000 for main 4 and 8750 for main 1. And I believe that's based on the principal plus interest calculation, so it
So does
should,
that cover the warrants? Have you checked and balanced? That's gonna cover the warrants? They're gonna be completely done? Zero? No surprises anywhere along the line? The warrants will be covered. It will be done this time?
as far as I know, yes.
Till next time.
No, it's not till next time. This is
They're
based
actually
on
doing a number
numbers.
that says 0 at the bottom. Oh,
Yes.
So what was that number you said for the fall assessment for DD 20? What did you say that you had down for?
Total for DD 20 main 4 is a $49,000 assessment.
No, the first number, you said something like
The
33.
outstanding 33,410 and 87 cents plus interest.
So there, and that's interest for the last 12 years, or interest for the last year, or?
Should be total interest from when they were issued.
So that's gonna be
What's
33,410
that?
plus 12 years of interest,
So,
and that's how you come up with the 49,000?
so this report, which we can get copies of here, for all of you, shows a principal balance of 33,410.87 cents, total interest of 24,298.33 which is a total for paying off, just calculated in interest, calculated to December 1st of 2024, so through this fall and past that a little bit, the total is 57,709.20 cents. So if you add up the 49,000 and 87.50, it would be covered.
That's what I just,
So-
when you throw out that first
and-
number of 33 and then say that the other number is
Yeah,
57.
thank you.
It sounded like it would have been
Yeah,
a
so
surplus.
Tammy's gonna make some copies of that, but these $2 figures together would cover the total outstanding with interest, all of the interest, up to December 1st. If anyone signs up for waivers, then they would have their own interest on the waivers separately. But,
So when I look at the fall assessment worksheet for 2024, that $49,000, it says for main 4, and it gives a fund number, 51642, not that that matters.
yep,
But it says that it's being transferred over to 51103, which is lat 2 main 1, and that's the sheet that has this, 90-some warrants on it. So all these warrants are under, I mean, when I say fund, that's the same thing as trust too, right? Trust number, fund
it's
number.
basically a checking account.
Okay, so the checking account for main 1 has all the bills, but, or,
The checking account for lat 2 main. has-
lat 2 main 1, but here it says that it's transferring this debt, this 49,000. It says Drainage District 20, main 4, collecting on waivers, transfer to fund 51103. So it looks like you're transferring debt in from another fund into our district.
So that's where the original bills would have been paid from.
So that's a waiver account? Is that why it says collecting on waivers, transfer to fund 51103?
Yeah, and those comments honestly probably should be removed since there's no waivers coming in anymore. Those were there previously, but since there's not waivers, they're irrelevant at this point. But since the original bills from the project were paid out of that 51103 fund, the other, when they reclassified it and had the breakdown that way, they assessed out on those schedules because they're new schedules, but the bills that were incurred were put on that account originally. So it's paying for the cost of that original project.
So that, and that fund would have the same allocation schedule as the 51103. I mean, there isn't, you know, I mean, it's gonna be the same, I mean, it's not a different portion of the district, it's for sure.
That's where the book was from.
For sure, the same assessment schedule, allocation schedule, however, classification schedule as 51103, as far as everybody getting their bill.
The 51103 is the reclassified
That's where the
schedule.
original project was, and then they broke it off into main 1 and main 4. So that schedule, or the 1103 was the original, and that doesn't get assessed anymore. It's broken down to the new reclassification of the main 1 and main 4.
Okay. So then, once all these warrants are paid off, there won't be anything in 51103 anymore.
Correct.
So then they'll just have two new funds.
Correct.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good question, good thing to clarify. I'll take something and help you pass out.
I can pass it down, just pass it
Yeah,
down.
that'll work. So this is the report that I was reading, copies of the report that I was reading from that lay out those dollar figures. In case you didn't take notes, there's a printed report for you. Thank you.
I'm clear they're not gonna get their interest. That would save us a bunch. Yeah. Tell them clear, we're out of funds. They don't get their warrants.
I like that idea.
Pay your, but don't get interest. That'll save them a bunch.
If it was up to my personal opinion, we wouldn't pay the principal or the interest to them, but that's, I don't know if that's within my control.
Just tell them that, like you're telling us. What are they gonna do? Sue you?
They'll just show it as an outstanding balance for eternity. And unfortunately, I think they'd have the code of Iowa to back that up. Is there anything else you guys would like to say as board members?
You know, I don't see another person on there, not one person. Writes on.
Does anyone have any other questions as landowners here? Alright, well, I know this isn't a fun conversation by any means, but I appreciate all of you that took time to come down and ask questions and be involved. And we need to find a copy of that letter yet, and we'll get that distributed to everybody from our insurance. And if there's any other documents or reports you guys would like, coordinate with the auditor's office and we can get you those as well.
Please make sure your name and email address is on that clipboard.
So, if there's nothing further, I would entertain a motion to close this informational meeting.
So,
Alright, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion or other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carried unanimous. Alright. Roger, do you want this listing of stamp orders or anything? Do you want this?
it's the same one.
About 2 hours.
Yeah, it's in the folder.
I don't think that was in our folder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For 20?
Yep.
Oh, it was put, okay, it was put in here this morning. Yep. My folder hadn't updated since 8. Okay. Let's do repair requests and
Oh, while
that
Marge
stuff
is
if
here.
we can.
Okay, yeah.
Do you have those with you, Marge?
Yep.
Alright.
It's been a while since I haven't had it.
Rogers, the big winner. We got 2 of them.
I'll share. You've never had one.
Maybe Josh needs a couple.
He needs a couple. Could even make it easy for you.
You mean the ones that are already done?
No, I ain't done yet.
I think I just have one. Thank you. Alright, Roger, you wanna read yours off or otherwise?
Sure. I got one on HK 236, it's sloughing off of the bank on the south side of the bridge ditch. It's number 92. Did Reggie tell you how bad it was? He hasn't talked to me.
No, he didn't. He didn't say.
We'll send it to Brent. You want, I'll write it on there.
Okay.
And then I have one from Eugene Thompson, and that's number 98. It's a District 98, excuse me, and it's number 91. He wants a camera underneath the blacktop. He's not a owner of any of that ground though.
I saw on there it had tenant circled, but do you know who the tenant is?
Yeah, I looked it up, or I asked.
Is that who he was working for?
It wasn't clear to me. So, here's the issue with this one. The road department has hired a contractor to go in and look at this.
Okay,
So, I'm gonna send it to the road department to correlate. If this is in the road ditch, this is a road department problem, and this is what he wanted, camera underneath the road.
yep,
So it's really not a supervisor issue. So can I just send it down to the road department and have them correlate with us? If it goes beyond what the road is, then I'll get somebody else to sign a repair request.
that'd be fine with me.
Is that fine with everybody? Okay. I think that's the simplest way to handle it.
Yeah. Alright, and mine is number 93 in Lincoln 19, possible tree roots and tile for Reggie Schucher. Roger, you forgot to sign one. So I'd entertain a motion for the supervisors to take care of their requests.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carried unanimous. Alright. March, there's those.
Thank you.
Oh. Okay, and next thing we'll address here is the next item on the agenda, hiring FEMA consultant for 2024 disaster. We've talked about this kind of specifically with PAC 1, but in case there's any others that get tied in, we have a kind of entrance type call tomorrow.
Who would that be?
This is Leon Freeman, the same one that we had for the 18 to 19 disasters. So I've already coordinated with him a little bit on this year's stuff, and he put together the contract because we need a separate contract per each year. So if the board would like to have him as a consultant with stuff moving forward, then we can act on this contract. I know Colin's been in touch with him already for other projects they have for other counties, and he's talked about PAC 1 with them as well, so I guess I would strongly suggest to the board that we move forward with this. He's been paramount and instrumental in working through the paperwork with FEMA. And actually, a piece some landowners may not know is 100% of administration costs are covered by FEMA as their category Z expenses. So like our stuff with the 18 and 19 disasters, every single bill that he submitted was covered by FEMA. So, I mean, we're really not out anything. His bills. Yeah. So it takes a burden off us at the county. We have an expert that has dealt with this for decades and knows what he's doing, and he's helping a lot of our neighbors to the west with their flooding damage, so.
Okay.
So I guess I'd make a motion to approve hiring the FEMA consultant, Leon,
What's Leon's last name?
Freeman. I don't think I have it here. I think it's with B and K.
Did you give a specific name in your motion, or company?
Well,
looking for
no,
the
it's
company.
Veenstra and Kim is the
Right.
company.
That's all you need?
So that's what we would have in the motion is V
Right.
and K.
Veenstra, not Feenstra?
Right, it's in our, yep, it's in our packet. So, is there a second to that motion?
It's not in the. I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carried unanimous. Alright, yep. And then Tammy, if you wanna sign this now or later, whenever you want. Alright, anything else for drainage for March right now? Otherwise, we do have the other public hearing at 1 today. Okay,
Thanks, Marty.
thank you, Marge.
Make it a load.
Yes, please. What's that?
Whose interest that we have to give you for?
So we'll talk about that. There's three pieces to that. There's stuff that wasn't assessed from the first project. There's working interest from the project we just completed, which we said was not factored in originally. That was known. And then there's also the balance remaining from FEMA that hasn't been paid yet and is expected, so that has been sitting at the state's hands for 175 days as of yesterday. So
Hi Lisa, Carter in the boardroom.
we're waiting on
Is
that.
Doug in
So
the
it's
office?
a combination of all
Okay.
three.
Oh, that's fine. You want, if you just wanna let him know that we're done with the informational meeting whenever he's ready.
Steve will pay the interest.
Okay, thanks. Yep, bye. Guess as I call him, then we lose a couple board members.
Was I tagged in that email or would have you forwarded it to me? Cause I'm not seeing anything on that.
I don't know. I don't remember who it would have came from. I thought it was from Bridget, but
I'm looking everything in ICAP. And I have a correspondence with her from December, but it said you guys were working on it.
Hello again?
hey Doug. Marshall Orency was for litigation, but cause I had searched ICAP too.
While we're waiting for them, I had a random note from a while back that says we have 42.39 miles per secondary road employee. What would that refer to? I didn't include any detail with that. Didn't know why I made that note.
I don't know for sure, but, I think that's about how many secondary road maintenance employees per mile. With miles per secondary road employees.
Of roads?
Roads, secondary roads.
Total roads, oh, okay, okay. Okay.
So I think I presented a spreadsheet, and I think there might be one more county in Iowa with greater number of roads per employee, otherwise everybody.
Okay. No,
all other counties are less miles.
I assume that meant miles. I was trying to figure out what that note meant. Yeah.
I'd have to double check, I'm not sure.
Nope, sounds good. You make little notes in conversation and you forget why you wrote the note.
Sent an email to them to see if they can send it to us. Alright, Doug, your DOT federal aid agreement, I think is up next.
Yeah, we started developing project to be resurfacing of B55, road B55 from Highway 169 east to P60, 7 miles of resurfacing. We do have federal funds for that. So this motion by the board would agree to the terms and authorize the chair to sign this. I'd recommend the board would approve of this agreement, that it's actually allow Kossuth County up to a little bit more than $1.5 million for the construction of that road.
Alright, I would entertain a motion to that effect. Jack, do we have a second? Okay. Roger. Yep. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carried unanimous.
If we could, chair signs that line there, and then Tammy, if you'll sign the line to the left of Kyle, please.
Thanks, Doug.
You bet. Thank you.
Alright, and then whenever you're ready for right away.
We have no, approved, work for, crossing construction of the road right away. We do have, just to let you know, Ryan Goshi has been in communication with us. There is a pretty large private tile, being constructed south and west of Burt. And Ryan has applied to cross 300th Street. It's about 2,400 feet to the west of US 169. I think that by the end of this week, we will have all the information that we need, and we will be bringing that to the Board of Supervisors for approval next week. So it's more informational there with Ryan and his project.
All right, anything else for the right of way?
No, there is no requests.
Okay. Up to discussion.
Yeah, right now, the bridge on the Boat Hobart Road, they're pouring barrier rail. So, they will be cleaning up and getting, things ready and getting things backfilled so they can get, their approach guardrail put on there. The material's been delivered on 132nd Avenue. That road was washed out in the May storm. And we've got the material for that now, and we'll get that put in hopefully soon. We're dealing with Mark Erpelding. He's going to be installing that to a certain point, and then we'll take over and backfill the road. Roadside spraying has been completed. We still have a couple of positions at the mechanic shop. And starting to hopefully get some truck quotes out soon. That's kind of from the engineers. Planning and zoning. We got a lot of variances going. Otherwise, everything is moving forward on that. And for self-insurance, I don't know if the boards would like to have another workshop or not, but if you would, let me know. I do have a question on the agenda. There is a discussion decision hiring FEMA consultant for 2024 disaster. Is that for all of Kossuth County, or is that for, because I guess the road department, we've already put in our request for public assistance. So, I don't know, I'm just asking.
Do you have any need for anything in that regard that you're aware of?
No.
Okay, well, I guess the main intent is for drainage, but if anybody else needs it, it could be covered here as well. So, if there's any questions you have or guidance that's needed or anything of that regard, Leon would be able to help you with that too.
Okay. We did request public assistance for the May 20 event and the June 20 event. However, it does not look like Kossuth County is part of the June 20 event. So I need to talk a little bit more with Jim Grandquist. There's a little bit of ambiguity there. So, the discussion this morning on open meetings and the requirement, I guess I've been reading that a little bit as well, and that's not just for the Board of Supervisors, but that's for all governmental boards, commissions, councils, committees. So I am involved in planning and zoning and also the Kossuth Waste Management, and those two entities have public meetings. So I guess I'd like to discuss that and see what, if the board is going to be doing things, I'd like to at least do them the same.
That apply to the Board of Adjustment as well?
Correct. Board of Adjustment, Planning and Zoning Commission, anything that the zoning would require.
We already do, we set up Teams meetings or, and phone, so that's what we've been doing, following that rule already.
All right.
You can do the same thing anytime you set up the Teams, or you can do a phone.
Are you guys going to start having Teams meetings be on your agenda? There is some talk in the opinion of the information board, that it talks that if you're, they use a lot of terms as should, could, they don't say shall. But there is some talk on, if you're gonna have meetings available for members, whether or not you have that be part of the official notice of the meeting.
So what we've done so far, which I think already complies with the new law, is if there is a member that requests that, we make it available. And I think that's kind of what we talked about moving forward, just continuing that. As far as allowing it for members of the public, that is not a shall, but it does, I don't remember where in there
It's not required.
it's not required, and, okay, here, what are the requirements for public participation? The new law does not change existing requirements as it relates to public access to the meeting and compliance with public notice requirements. It still requires a governmental body provides public access to the conversation of the meeting to the extent reasonably possible. It does eliminate the requirement that minutes include a statement as to why a person was a meeting in person was impossible or impractical, because now you're required to have that as an option. But, under that, it's got, must the general public be granted access to the electronic meeting options? And it says in there, chapter 21 does not provide a definition of public access or provides specific detail on how the public must access it. So, something for us to consider. And I'm not opposed to that. The caveat to that is keeping the meetings orderly and ensuring that technology does not cause a disruption to the meeting. So I think what we're already doing is sufficient. If we're not allowing the public to participate during the meeting with forms of technology, whether they watch it live or after the fact, is hopefully immaterial. But I don't know, any thoughts from the board? Roger, were your gears turning over there?
Well, I was just trying to think how you even set it up. That would be, you'd have to have some computer designated for people to call in on, and if they were gonna participate, you have to see the people really to get the full benefit. So I was looking at the screen, and you'd have to have a computer set up there. You'd have to have somebody from IT sitting here managing.
Yeah.
You're talking if we allow the public.
Right, managing the public, how they.
I mean, there are ways to automatically mute people that come in and only allow them to unmute if the host does it, I believe. I'm not the most versed in that stuff. I've dealt with it some, but I'm not gonna profess to be an expert there. But I guess I think what we're doing is still, as far as transparency and providing access to the public for viewing, I think we're still doing a lot better than previously. So I guess there's more options now than there used to be, and I think that's a good thing. But I don't know if we're needing or ready to change anything else at this point. So I guess I'm relatively satisfied with where we're at.
I was just looking at the expense of it. You'd have an extra person involved almost.
Potentially.
Well, like I say, I just wanna make sure that if there are situations where the board does feel that there needs to be some policy, if that gets brought down to other commissions, please let me know.
Yeah, I guess.
And I have been, allowing people to, come to the Teams meetings if they want to participate virtually. However, there's been limited, and last night we did have a speaker actually who was virtual, so.
Okay, yep.
And then the last thing, I guess I just make the board aware, secondary road department, employees are still looking for some sort of an indication of what intentions the board of supervisors has with insurance, with increases to wages, whether you feel that it's going to be froze more. Still be quite a few questions. This morning's decision, the people that were affected in the secondary road department, some of that is discouraging to them. If the sooner the board can make the secondary road department employees aware of what your plans are, it would be appreciated.
I doubt the new board will have any decisions on that until we see what the budget numbers are for next year.
Yeah, I
They
guess
they have 1 year left of their union contract, correct, of 4% for next year?
For the operators,
Yep, okay.
not the
Not the transfer station, right?
transfer station one employee, we actually give them the same benefits as what the labor is, but there's 10 employees that are not members of the union, that are not getting some of the same increases.
Which would be the foreman, the mechanic shop, the transfer station, and the engineer's office, is
That
that?
would be correct.
Okay.
Yes. So, but even the operators, as far as health insurance, they would like to know, again, sooner than later, about that information
Yeah, and I
and
think
what your intentions are.
I think we should continue with more workshops in that regard, and keep that conversation going. I don't think we can give any sort of decision at this point, but, I do think we need to continue that conversation.
$100,000 question there, or $1 million question is what's the fund balance gonna look like at the end of the year? December.
Some of the road employees, some of their insurance is paid for out of different revenue stream
Out of the road fund,
and out of the road fund.
Secondary
So,
road
I mean,
fund,
there's a difference.
and all the transfer stations paid out of transfer station fund,
Right,
so.
so it's not general basic.
And family members, family insurance paid by employees, the same, so.
Doug, I did have a question on the spraying. When you mentioned that, have you done any further review of the weeds?
I did, and I notified B&W, I'm kind of waiting for them to get back, they were supposed to look at some roads, so. The spots that I saw, you could tell, the spraying had occurred. The thistles, it does, the chemical that gets used, my understanding of it, takes some time to actually kill the plant. It is getting within the root system and everything else. But I did get a hold of Nate Reefer about that. I drove a lot of gravel roads. Friday, had the opportunity in the north part of the county in the afternoon, in the south part of the county in the morning. Every now and then I'd see some thistle, not a lot. But these sections of roads that I was notified about, there were some. They were all, to be honest with you, if we mowed it, I don't believe I'd see any of the mowing would take care of it.
Conservation has a thistle problem on Scuffles ground. It's full of thistles.
There are, yes, there are thistles on private property.
Okay, did you also say you were working on getting things put together for getting truck quotes?
I've been visiting, yes, with Nick, and trying to get some things going that way.
Okay, and we didn't really have time when we went through the report before, but in that report, it looked like there was 1.5 million obligated for new equipment. And isn't our budget $1 million?
It's a line item, but it's part of multiple line items, so we don't have rules that each line item has to be split, so we'll see if that whole roadway, how that ends up looking. But we need equipment. And if the board directs me not to get equipment, then the service is just not gonna be able to be maintained. We got trucks out there running right now that we question whether they're gonna last over the winter. We have maintainers that need work.
So how much are you wanting to spend on trucks yet this fiscal year?
Well, we need to get at least 2 trucks ordered. We need a sign truck. We need a mechanic service truck. We probably need a couple pickups. We are behind in getting equipment. However, the budget only allows so much. And if the board would like to get caught up with equipment, it's going to take some more funding.
Dollar figure on those purchases you're looking at, estimated?
Uh, 4 new trucks, 2 dump trucks, that'd be 500,000. Service trucks and a sign truck, 200,000. Couple of pickups. I don't know if I could get 2 trucks for $100,000 or not. I'd have to, see what.
You didn't last time, they were 57,
So,
and they went up since then.
so anyway, but that's something, I guess we talk a little bit about budget.
No, I was just curious on that, and if we talk budget, that's probably more time than we have today. It's already 11:51 and we got another hearing at 1, so.
I'd be happy to visit, but I guess.
Okay. Anything else you had? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Alright, Tammy, did you have auditor discussion?
So, let's see. Next week, no drainage hearings. We have approval of a liquor license and approved resolution to reestablish compensation boards. And then set the date and time for public hearing for amendment to the existing urban renewal. Do you wanna draw lots for the compensation board, staggered?
I don't care if we do it now or later.
Can't you do that when we establish the compensation board?
Well, it's gotta be on the resolution. It has to be on the resolution.
Yeah, but can't you draw the lots right before you approve the resolution?
But then I won't have the resolution ready to
He wants to be
sign.
able to type it up.
Just, you
The
got a
names
cup
are on
there.
it, just won't, the cup's got coffee in it though, but now I gotta, and I think it's 4 that are at 4-year terms and 3 at 2. I gotta grab my thing. Wow.
And they're all
I think it's
separated.
for comp. I forgot to bring my. Okay.
Did you have anything else besides the compensation board stuff? Okay. Jack, did you have anything?
Nope, nice enjoyable week.
Makes one of us. Roger?
Got nothing?
Josh?
Was supposed to have a, Department of Corrections meeting, but I did not make that meeting. That's been so.
Carter?
No meetings, supposed to have a short care connections meeting at 1:30 today on Zoom to go over the new behavioral health district, but if I don't make that, we'll see. It won't be very long, but they did the state redid what they're presenting for the new mental health, behavioral health districts. And it would put Kossuth, instead of with a whole bunch of counties in the center of the state, it would put us in with pretty much the same as Care Connections is without Osceola. We would have Dickinson,
Okay.
Clay, Emmett, Palo Alto, Kossuth, Winnebago, Hancock, and Worth, and then Pocahontas, Humboldt, Wright, Webster, Calhoun, and Sac to the south. So still a lot of counties, but
That'd be a good group.
it'll be a better setup than being in with Ames and Mason City and some of the others. So, so pretty much get to keep the current district without Osceola and add a few more rural counties in our neighborhood, which will be all right. So
Webster would be the big one.
Webster would be the big addition to that. So, but that's kind of what things are looking at there. And then tomorrow for wellness, have a wellness meeting, but then there's the Tunnel of the Tower potluck at 11. That's all I got.
Alright, and I didn't have any meetings that way, but, are you guys available next Monday for a workshop on TIF stuff with the things Doug and Tammy have talked about and, for a conversation with Heidi and potentially John Danos?
12.
Yeah, next Monday, so yeah,
Yeah, I could do that.
12.
What time?
Probably in the morning, we'll have to, probably 8:30, I gotta confirm with John as well.
That'd be fine.
Okay, that may be a possibility, so keep your eyes out for that. And a lot of time spent this last week on workshop for TIF.
1 o'clock?
No, probably 8:30,
morning,
something like that.
He's gotta confirm the time, so.
We'll let you know time once things are scheduled for sure. And then, yeah, spent a lot of time on drainage this week especially with drain 4. We'll spend a lot of time talking about that this afternoon, but, I do have some other ideas as far as, potential changes we could make going forward, in that regard, and I think we probably need to have a little bit of a workshop on drainage at some point in time. I think rebuilding the trust, is gonna be a critical task moving forward, and I think there are options on the table that we could explore, but there's some things I've been thinking about for a couple of years now that we might need to seriously consider, so. I don't know about having some conversations about the different options that way, but. And then, Jack, you said this morning that Mike Yemlin and his wife were interested in Naira.
And Pinky, they called me, said they would be willing to serve on that.
Yep, so I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that.
You'll have to contact them and see about what they do, what kind of property they have.
Can you share contact info with your team or someone.
I have Mike's number if you want to.
Okay,
Go ahead.
yeah, either way,
You guys can work on it then.
cause yeah, we could check on that as long as they don't have a conflict.
I'll be right back.
We could work on that. So that's something then, there was, which I don't know if Tammy needs or wants to talk on it before, but there was a special payroll that had to be done because of a employee, the timing of an employee being hired versus payroll being run with the way our cycles work, and we've talked about this before when we were talking about changing payroll dates and stuff like that, so you guys have any interest in having conversations about that to try and make some changes
She
or?
handled.
I think this is payroll for the whole.
Well, it's payroll for everybody. So it wasn't,
Went through that once before, weren't you here then?
well, we talked about it, but we never did anything.
No, we never did anything, because nobody wanted to change. We run into problems with the road department on different schedules and the sheriffs and the jailers and.
And to me, it makes sense, the difference between a 28-day cycle and a monthly cycle, but we've got multiple monthly cycles and days are paid in advance and
It's complicated.
yeah.
It's complicated to change it too, is the problem.
Right, and some of that, I think when we talked about it previously, some of it correlates with the fiscal year expenses, so I don't know if it'd be good to change it or not, just thought I'd let the board know that we did have a situation, not that it was necessarily bad or whatever, but.
You'll always have situations where
Okay,
things don't work out that you have to adapt, adjust and overcome.
okay, well, that works. Did you find the number we needed or whatever?
I cannot figure out what I did.
Okay, well, we can handle that later, it's noon, so let's all break for lunch.
Oh, wait, it's right here in front of my face.
Okay, that'll work too.
Okay, 4 representatives for 4-year terms, 3 representatives for 2-year terms. Okay,
Well, what do we wanna draw for first, 4 years?
Yeah.
And then the rest can be 3?
2.
Or 2, yeah, sorry. Board of Supervisors, Matt Borman, would be 4. Board of Supervisors, Rod Bankin. And County Attorney. And Auditor. So then, Treasurer, Recorder, and Sheriff would be 2-year terms.
Okay.
Alright,
Right.
perfect, we got that squared away.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. See everyone back here at 1.
Big room gonna be big enough?
Probably not. Is that off?